What's up, everybody? Thralls here once again. I'm Necrotic.
I'm Jammin John.
And we have yet another album review for you. So one we definitely had on our radar because we actually covered this band's debut EP and it was fucking awesome, was the debut full-length from Ashen, Ritual of Ash. This also comes out on the 13th of January on Bitter Loss Records. This band formed in 2020 in Perth, Australia. Again, this is their first full-length. Their Godless Oath EP was an absolute fucking banger.
Yes, it was.
And the band was super fucking grateful for the review we gave them. They even sent us some kick-ass shirts, which I thought about wearing for this, but I already wore an obituary shirt for the obituary review. So
it's kind of like the whole concerts thing, like where you're not supposed to wear the shirt of the band you're going to see. I try to do the same, at least with reviews, like not wear the shirt of the band I'm reviewing. But the Ashen shirt I have is pretty fucking sick, so...
Yeah, thanks again, guys.
Yep, appreciate it. In fact, Shannon, their guitarist, reached out to me actually a couple months ago and gave me a copy of this album that I've had to sit on for the last 2 fucking months. Really hard not to talk about it or say anything to anyone or show anyone, but I didn't. I kept it under wraps. Yeah, we probably could have reviewed this a little bit sooner, but screw it. I think it's coming out at the appropriate time.
Oh yeah, no, we wanted to get a good debut weekend, and this weekend has a lot of cool fucking albums that came out.
Yeah.
But this band, of course, we had in our radar. We love the EP. This is very much like HM2 death metal, so of course, naturally, I'm all kinds of slutty for the HM2 thing. I was kind of curious what they would do with a full length. The EP was, relatively short. I think it was, 4 tracks, 5 tracks?
I think it was 5 tracks.
This, we have a 10-song album, and we pretty much got word that they were kind of like tampering with different sounds and sort of integrating different styles in their overall sound, and we definitely got that on here. This opens in very brutal fashion, though. The opening track, Ritual, it's almost like a band like Creeping Death or Frozen Soul, but, sort of like Bloodbath injected in there.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
Bloodbath, Morbid Angel. Great way to kick off the album. Sick grooves, stomper riffs, dark, evil, snarling guitar tone.
It's a nice, brutal offering right away. Very groove-laden, some cool syncopated breakdowns, but you get pockets of tremolo riffs and kind of blast beats. And the production here is really fucking good. The drums on here are very punchy, especially that bass drum. The guitar tone is thick, again, very much that HM2 sound, but it's a little bit cleaner than it probably was on the EP, and kind of in general in terms of a lot of HM2 death metal, they kind of make it extra dirty, like they want some rust on that fucking buzzsaw. But this is a little bit more polished.
Yeah, it's, how, their EP, for an example, had more of a mid-range tone on it, just overall. This one is thicker and cleaner and beefier. Take everything you love about that EP and just thicken it up.
And this brutal opener is just quite a beast to start with, and then you have some moments on here that are definitely more just straightforward Stockholm death metal from the 90s, namely Gravemind and Dead Sight. Both of these songs definitely play closer to that classic Entombed Dismember sound, a little bit faster, kind of that old school aggression versus the new school aggression. And that's kind of an interesting thing on this album, where it's definitely more modern death metal, but it has a lot of classic tropes, but it pulls from a lot of different styles. This isn't just flat out Stockholm, death metal worship. There's a lot of different styles of death metal in general on here.
Mainly melodic death metal. I don't remember the EP being nearly as melodic. It was far more brutal, but this has a lot of melody. I mean, I got Carcass vibes at times. You even said, what, Amon Amarth?
Amorphous, At the Gates, Insomnium. Lots of, really solid melodic death metal bands known for really good hooks, and this is something that definitely pops up on here more, are very catchy riffs. Songs like Blood, Cursed Rebirth, and Buried in Ice both kind of lay on that Amon Amarth sort of stomping anthemic groove with big catchy riffs. They don't feel necessarily dark, sinister, or brutal, but they're driving. They're, kind of charging forth into battle. Except I don't know if these guys were singing about Vikings. I don't think so. But
I don't think so either.
I don't think so either. They don't have Vikings in Australia. They have venomous everything. And that was something that kind of caught me off guard. Granted, melody is definitely a part of the Godless Oath EP. It feels more like a seasoning on that, where this is just direct and in your face. Like, there are huge nods to like that, kind of classic Gothenburg scene as well as Stockholm on here. And then you got a little bit of like just straight up like modern death metal on here. But that wasn't the only surprise I got. There's even some like almost Peaceville style like death doom on here. Going back to the song Blood, it's very gloomy and melancholy. I mean, that was something we were talking about, like how this doesn't sound like always like dark and evil. This sounds, again, like gloomy, dreary, like more like misery and
dismal, bleak, kind of hopeless, but again, not in a death metal sort of way, more in a like catatonia sort of way.
Especially the song Arbinger. That song, the way it opens with its very like dreary melodies, and it's not like necessarily like brutal, but it is like, I don't know, it just has the same vibe as a Paradise Lost song or My Dying Bride, early Catatonia. Very sullen but heavy, and it's just sort of like dark. And it does pivot back to like, more standard like, just heavy kind of groovy chugs, like almost kind of like Obituary in a way. But it's that sort of vibe of the song that is notably different than, again, anything on the EP.
And it's not to be said that it's all doomy and somber, because it's still really heavy.
Oh,
in fact, the riffs are very creative. Lots of stuttered riffs, but the drums come in on different parts, and there's a bunch of like off-time stuff. And as heavy as it is all the time, it's actually really mid-tempo.
Yeah. There's only a couple of songs I would say that are pretty fast, like namely Dead Sight and Gravemind on here. The rest of them like to stick mostly like a mid-tempo groove to almost kind of like a slower, almost like Death Doom vibe. I think rhythmically, the most interesting song is the last one, Inhuman, which has this sort of like HM2 driven Sabbath swing to it. Like there's this little kind of bounce, and I don't know, like I think that song is probably one of my favorites on here, just because there's this sort of interesting rhythm. The riffs are not really like death metal riffs, they're more like doom metal riffs, and there's, I don't know, just like a pleasant melody to them.
There's definitely a swing to it, but it's very like relaxing. It doesn't even sound all that evil so much as it sounds maybe sinister.
Maybe, but sinister, but you can kind of waltz to it, but maybe like a fast waltz. I don't know, I can't dance.
A death waltz. That's gonna be a new that's gonna be a new dance. You kids in the pit doing fucking push-ups. What about a death waltz? Class yourself up a little bit. You're not getting any younger.
Top hats and monocles optional. I also really like the vocal performance on here. I think there's like a good mix of highs and lows. They're very dynamic, and they're very good at like fitting the mood of the song, which there's a lot of like, again, big dynamic swings. There's moments where you get like just a bass and drum sort of lead into the next riffy breakdown. There's a bit more atmosphere. You do have keys that pop up on Ritual, Inhuman, and Cursory Birth that do add something. They're a little bit back in the mix, but they do add like a little bit of that sort of like kind of gothic vibe to it.
And that's what I like about the keys in this instance. They're not being used as an instrument so much, they're being used to create ambience, which is what I think should happen in something like this. There's definitely a lot more dynamic in this release than there was in the EP, although the EP was fucking killer.
Yeah.
You can tell the songwriting skills have improved here.
And there's a willingness to experiment, and I do like that. I do think the pace of the album is kind of odd. Like the way it starts out with the first two tracks, you feel as though you're geared up for a far more brutal release, and as this goes on, it's still really heavy, but it's way more melody driven, and I think the songs are, again, way more creative, like less primal, but at the same time, again, you were kind of set up for something a little bit different. And I like that this band is experimenting, changing their sound, bringing in different elements, like again, those like kind of gothic death doom elements, the more melodic death metal stuff, and kind of mixing it in their bass sound. In terms of like, transitioning your sound over time, like this is kind of the way to do it, where you don't just, like, oh, we just changed everything, and the new album's called Load, why don't you like it? This is kind of the way to do it. Like, hey, let's just kind of slowly start bringing in some different elements, and, showcase that we have, different influences, and we can write some different songs, and I think that does work out in their advantage here.
Yeah, because moving forward for this band, they could really take it in any direction, and they've shown that they have the ability to do so. You could go back to straight bloodbath worship death metal, or you could take the melodic path, and they've kind of left the door open for them to go both ways if they want to.
And, there's a ton of HM2 bands out there, believe me, I fucking know. because I bought like all their fucking albums.
Right.
But you know, this actually kind of keeps that whole like subset of death metal fresh because you have some different approaches to it. Like I do like the fact that this has more melody to it. Like that is actually the thing that really stands out the most is just really clever melodies and songwriting that doesn't necessarily stay in that kind of Swedish death metal box. But at the same time, I think that they might have replaced a little too much of the brutality that was on Godless Oath in favor of, you know, melody or just sort of flat out epicness, because there are some songs in here that have like sort of an epic, triumphant vibe, and you know, that isn't completely, you know, not a thing in death metal at all, but at the same time, like, I think I would have liked more songs like the opening track, Ritual, or Dead Side on here. But I still think this is really fucking good. So overall, I'm going to go ahead and give this 3.5 stars. This is a solid album, and in a way, it definitely keeps the whole HM2 thing very fresh. I like the injection of melody and showcasing their different influences. Again, I like the dreary Death Doom stuff. I love that shit. All things Paradise Lost are pretty much good in my book, even some of the more goth rock stuff. And Melodeath is still fucking awesome. And, you know, it does sound a bit like Amon Amarth, but it sounds like, you know, Amon Amarth when they were just sort of just putting out a Viking album every 2 years because it's 2 years since the last Viking album. I think the songwriting is creative, it's fun, there are some cool surprises on here, and I like that they're willing to continuously experiment with the band. I think that's fucking awesome. So yeah, if you like your HM2 death metal with a little bit more flavor and a little bit more seasoning, definitely check this out. This is an awesome album.
I'm going to go ahead and give it a 4. I like to see bands progress. Even really early on in their career, they didn't buy into, well, here's what we started with, so here's what we're going to continue with. While they could have expanded on the idea of the EP, they chose to not only expand on that thought, but go in some new territory as well. The riff work in here is really fucking fun. I don't know if we really went over that as much as we possibly could have. There's a lot of off-time things going on. There's a lot of cool little stutter moments. The drum work is fantastic. While this may be missing some brutality from the Godless Oath, it has a lot more dynamic that wasn't found there either. And it shows once again that, again, they really can expand on their songwriting skills as well as writing awesome songs. And like I said earlier, the fact that they can go either way now from this point, they can go back to brutal or they can go back to melodic or they can continue to make this kind of microcosm of both. It's a good thing. I see great things coming for this band. I really enjoyed this record. Albeit it was different than what I thought it was going to be, it's still pretty fucking kick-ass. So you get a 4 from me.
So, if you enjoyed this review, give it a thumbs up, and if you're new to the channel, subscribe, because we do stuff like this all the time. We are also on Patreon. If you'd like to help us out there, there is a link down below to thrallsmetal.com. Our shop is there. We still need to get some more stuff in there. We kind of ran out of sizes of shirts. Yeah. We're going to restock on that. But anyway, a link to our Patreon is also there, so if you'd like to help out, please click that link. And any news about Denver Death Fest?
Any news about Denver Death Fest? Well, if you're watching this right now, you've already seen the first wave of bands released. Holy fuck, man. I'm so excited. I can't wait. This is going to be such a good time. Of course, you know, we found a venue, obviously, because we're releasing band names. They've got a bunch of sponsors in line now. The sound is adding up. It's really cool to watch all this come together. So yeah, on 420, if you're not doing anything, you should roll out to Denver and come check out the Denver Death Fest, hosted by Thralls of Metal. My goofy ass is going to be up there with Miller emceeing this event, which is going to be grossly awkward, but I'm going to do it anyway. I genuinely look forward to this. This is just going to be pure fun. Please visit denverdeathfest.com down below for further details. I know tickets are actually pretty cheap, all things considered, so yeah. Fucking Denver Death Fest. Hell yeah.
Can't believe you found 10 Winger cover bands to fill out that roster. That is absolutely amazing.
30 Winger cover bands.
Oh, shit.
30.
And, of course, thank you all very much for liking, subscribing, following, all that shit.
Continuing to show up, watching us be the idiots that we are in front of this camera all the fucking time.
They lowered their standards years ago, and thank you. That really helps us out.
Yeah, thank you for back in 2018 when a bunch of you decided to lower your standards, and then you invited your friends to also lower their standards.
You're all getting participant trophies, just like we got participant trophies.
You, and you, and you, and that guy in the back, I see you back there. Hey. participant trophy for you. Don't think you're getting left out. This isn't elementary school. You will get to play Foursquare.
But no, seriously, thank you all so much. It is absolutely amazing being able to do this for so long, and we're looking forward to seeing what all 2023 has to offer us.
There are some great things coming. We have
Yep.
a bunch of stuff in store, a bunch of new content. There's cool stuff coming.
Yeah.
I'm stoked.
So with that, once again, I will thank you because that's what I do at the end of these videos.
Thank you.
And we will catch you later.